Today on the Coach About Podcast, we have a very special guest joining the show today. This one was a unique podcast here. We actually had a lot of technical difficulties. One of the first times actually ever on the show we've had this type. So if it sounds different, it was some audio issues and it just is what it is. So please enjoy this episode and don't forget to like, subscribe, the whole 9 yards to this episode. But today joining the show is a head softball coach from Lakeland University, Coach Kayla Bryant. She spent time coaching at all different levels, from NAI to D1, and she's turned her program around and done a really good job as at her time here at Lakeland. Former JUCO girl, so she appreciates where we are and what the process of going JUCO to high level. And so super excited for you guys to listen to this episode and for her to join the show. So we're super thankful for that. And so with that being said, let's welcome Coach Kayla Bryant to the Coach of Why podcast.
With the world of coaching evolving and the carousel always changing, we're going to sit down with some coaches and we're going to figure out what they coach, how they coach, and most importantly, why they got into this profession. My name is Casey Wilkinson, and I am your host of the Coach's Why podcast.
That's a great question.
That was my Coach's Why.
Welcome back to another Coach's Why podcast, guys. We have a very special guest in the building, and yes, I know it's weird. I am back at the OG spot. I'm not in my office anymore. I came home for the holidays, and so can't stop the grind, though. We have another podcast to jump onto, so I'm super excited for this one. So thank you guys for joining again. Today, we have Coach Kayla Bryant from Lakeland University, the head softball coach up there. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for joining today. I appreciate it. And last time we were going to get on the show, my truck broke down, and so I got that figured out. So I appreciate your patience and willing to jump back on here. So I really appreciate that and look forward to this.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited.
Absolutely, yes. And well, to get started, just like everything else, I'm going to go ahead and pass it along to you. Go ahead and, I would like to know, where you grew up, when you got involved in sports, but maybe softball in particular, obviously being that's the sport that we're coaching.
Yeah, of course. So I am born and raised, I love to say it, I call it the promised land, but Tennessee, born and raised there. After I went to JUCO first to start my softball career at the collegiate level, went to Southwest Tennessee Community College in Memphis, Tennessee, played there for 2 years, went on to my 4-year school to play college softball, which was up in Cincinnati, Ohio, played there at Cincinnati Christian University for 2 years, decided that I needed to go get my master's degree. I wasn't ready to hit, the workforce right away just yet. So I decided to go get my master's degree, and I was a graduate assistant at Mount Marty University, which is in Yankton, South Dakota. Was there for 2 years. After that, I continued my coaching career. Was a GA there, worked with our hitters, defense, all that good stuff. And then COVID hit actually the year I was going to graduate with my master's degree. So decided to go back home to Tennessee, and I ended up working as a volunteer assistant with the University of Memphis. Working under Coach Poole down there, which was amazing opportunity. Then I was offered the head coaching job back where I was a graduate assistant I was 23 at the time, I believe, 24. So of course, at that young age, you think, oh, head coaching job, this is going to be so cool. And then you get into it and it's like, whoa, like there is a lot more that goes into it as a head coach compared to the assistant. So I went there, took over the coaching job as the head coach. Our first year, we broke every record in school history, most wins. We had 32 wins that year. We also won the conference championship, which has never been done for a female sport there. It was only the second in school history. After that, we ended up going to the World Series, which was in Oklahoma. Really cool opportunity for us at the NAI level, getting to play against some top competition, really growing. And then I was there for another 2 years, broke many records, 20 plus win seasons, decided that I wanted to get a little bit closer to home. Wisconsin, it's crazy to think, but it is closer than South Dakota. So I ended up finding Lakeland, and I've loved every minute of it. Took over the program last year. We ended up winning over 20 games again, making the conference tournament, and then now we're going into year 2. I'm really excited for it. We've got pretty much everyone returning. We only graduated 1 starter, only had 3 seniors, so super excited for this upcoming year.
Absolutely, yeah. So you took the JUCO route, and you got to obviously the opportunity that you got to, and it's interesting. So you probably don't know this, but the listeners do. So I'm actually a coach at a junior college in Oklahoma. So I'm a JUCO guy. I didn't participate in JUCO, but I appreciate JUCO. I appreciated JUCO a long time ago, which I'm not going to preach to the choir and go into that one, but I can appreciate, that you went that route and stuff. So before we talk a little bit more, so you were a JUCO girl that worked your way into the 4-year space. So just speak on, I guess maybe that process, essentially. I mean, well, actually, let's start here because I think it'll actually work out a little bit better. It'll play into a little bit better. So, when did you know, like in high school or when you were participating in your sport, when did you know that you could go to college to play? Was it coaches coming your way? Was it just phone calls? I mean, when did you know that you could go to college? And then what was your recruiting process like? If you can recall it, when that time frame hit, right? When you started to think about it, and then your recruiting process, how was that experience for you? And what made you ultimately decide to go to the 2-year school over any other, opportunities if you had them?
Oh yeah, of course. So it's actually funny. So where I'm from, it's Martin, Tennessee, a really big sports town right now. If you go and look, one of the athletes to come out of that town is the starting quarterback at Alabama. So our town is big on sports. It's huge. And I remember played high school basketball actually growing up too, and softball, but I was actually wanting to go to college for basketball, which is crazy to think with the path I'm down now. And then really sat down. It was my sophomore year. I sat down, was starting to get interest in the softball world, and I was like, okay, well, yeah, I'm better at softball, but I had a little bit more love for basketball at the time, just with everything. We were a top sport. Of course, you're doing it, how it is year round, it felt like, and you're doing all your sports year round that time. So it was really, I started getting hit hard by softball coaches. And so I decided actually my junior year that I was going to focus just on softball. I put basketball to the side for a little bit just so that I could focus on that softball route because I was better at softball compared to basketball. So I was getting contacts from 4 years. I was getting JUCO contacts too. I am a big JUCO girl at heart. I still, I recruit JUCOs now because I love it. I call it JUCO bandits. We've got a love for one another. People don't understand it unless you went that route. But I always joke around. I've got that JUCO love. So really what it was for me is whenever I went to Southwest, it just felt at home. Like when I got on campus, I was like, okay, this is where I want to be. I had some travel teammates that were also going to Southwest. So I was like, all right, like this is where it's going to be. And so my junior year, I actually decided to go ahead and commit. And then I ended up going back to basketball my senior year because I had all that off my plate. I was like, okay, I'm for sure going. So I went the JUCO route first. I would go do it again. I mean, it's one of those things a lot of people think, oh, if you go JUCO, you didn't have the grades, stuff like that. You look at everybody that went JUCO in my class, we all had above a 3.5 GPA, and now we all have our masters. So it's one of those things, it's got the little floating thing, oh, you got to have bad GPA that's why you're going JUCO, but that's really not it. And at the time too, with how the scholarships worked, I was on a full ride to go there. And the scholarships I was getting from everything, I was actually getting money in my pocket. And this was way before NIL, obviously. So as an 18-year-old, you're seeing a couple grand in your pocket. You're like, man, this is legit. I like this. So that was another reason too that steered me that way. I was going out of college without any debt those first 2 years and getting my basics that I would have done at a 4-year school too. So that's what really drove me that JUCO route.
Yeah, the JUCO bandit. Our girls love to say that. They talk about being devious and all this stuff, which is crazy because these girls are like, the one who says that is like a 4.0 National Honor Society. Like she's doing her thing. So it's funny that you say that as well, and it's still carried on. Just so you know, that name is still, or that title is still a thing. But yeah, so you obviously went there, before NIL money was in your pocket, right? But the idea is that, it just fit better for you. And I think what you're mentioning about the whole, quote unquote, about what it means, why people go JUCO. Yeah, obviously there's people who have bad grades who do that. But there are also a lot of people who go JUCO just because it might just fit their goals or what they're looking to do in their life a little bit better, right? Like, this recruiting class I have coming in for 2026, I know in my head, but, out of the X amount of girls we have, I think there's only 2 of them that are sub 3.0, and the lowest GPA is a 2.5. But I think we have 13 or 14 commits. So, 11 of them are 3.0 or higher, and out of those 11, there's at least 6 or 7 of those, and I didn't mean to do it, but I'll just do it. I didn't mean to, but it's true. I think off the top of my head, there's like 6 or 7. That's back-to-back episode. That's crazy. I don't even mean to do that. But truly, there's about 6 of them. We'll just say that number that qualify for our honors program. Basically, they're 3.5 higher with a good ACT score. So, long story short, I do think it's kind of that stigma around JUCO whenever it's really not. And baseball and softball, I think, are different because I feel like baseball, and I've talked to other baseball coaches about this, and other softballs, I believe, as well. But the 2-year space in your sport and baseball has kind of taken reign, which probably over the last 10, 15 years, right? Like, there's a lot of people who've made it out of JUCO who went pro, who made the actual league. They were big time, or there's a lot of girls who probably went to a 4-year from that 2-year space. So you go in JUCO, and I'm bringing this up because I want to hear your experience, right? But like looking back at your time frame as a JUCO athlete and going that route, I guess how did that benefit you? Do you think, like, for your experience and or for your time frame to by the time you were done with it all at the end of the day? And then the second part of that is, since you were JUCO, right? Like, you recruited JUCO. We don't have to go into the. We'll get into recruiting stuff in a little bit, but what about the JUCO in general, since you were a part of it, is something that stands out to you, maybe as a sanction, but also as you look for athletes, or since you were part of it, right? Like that. The sanction itself, what stands out to why JUCO is so appealing, not only for you to recruit, but also just for baseball and softball, maybe just athletes in today's world, going that route before they go to a 4-year.
Yeah, exactly. I think what's really big too is you look at the JUCO route, and most of the time the rosters will say for softball around 15 to 16 girls. So your opportunity to play is going to be right away. Like, you're not going to have to usually go sit the bench and, wait your turn, or a lot of 4-years will want you to develop and be with what they want you to be. Like, you're going to get to go play. And that was another thing that stood out to me, was I was going to get to go play right away. Like, I was going to go get to work if I earned that spot. And I was going to be with one of the top conferences for softball. Like, that's massive. Like, there were girls that I remember every weekend going out, and these girls were committed to go D1, right? Like, big time pitchers. It prepared you for when you do go to that 4-year school. Like, you were seeing better competition at that JUCO level than you would when you go to your next level. And I think that's huge. Like, you can't always get that at the 4 years, depending on where you go, right? And roster sizes, especially today, they are getting so big. Like, I didn't want to just be a number. Like, I wanted to be someone. So that was another thing that kind of drew me, that JUCO route. And for me, I loved it too, because I learned a lot those first 2 years. I mean, it's a grind, right? Like, I love it, JUCO, because you don't have any rules. Like, it's just kind of like a free land. Like, coaches, you can practice whenever you want. You can do almost whatever you want, whenever. But you learn a lot. And it's just the bonds that you make during that with those girls last forever. I mean, those are the weddings I've been in, where I've stood up there with, the brides and been on their side, things like that. Those are the lifelong memories, because we went through that grind together. We were doing everything together. You were literally with each other 24/7, compared to at the 4-year schools, like where I went to my next 2 years. So I love you. Be a fan of it. You'll hear coaches and that don't like JUCO, and I think it's just because they never went that route. They don't understand it. But I am one. I advocate for it. I recruit it. I at least try to get as many JUCOs on our roster, because what I like about those kids too is they can come play right away. Like, they know how to grind. They know how to ball. Like, that's what I love about those kids, is they're ready to go right away. I don't have to worry about it. They want to go take that spot. They've worked for it. They've had the bats at the college level, and now they're ready to go work. And I think you see that with baseball and softball, that helps tremendously. I mean, our baseball program here is starting to get a lot more JUCO kids, and it's because it's going to help them. I mean, they're starting to see the benefits from it, and I think that's huge.
The idea of the JUCO, which I shouldn't say idea of it, but like you said, they get a lot of PT, right? So they actually get a lot of, in your world, they get a lot of, at bats, they get a lot of innings, they get a lot of pitching, whatever position they play, and it just prepares them in a way that, being a fall ball person or being a inner squad person doesn't you no matter what you do, it doesn't put you in those positions that game times will, even though you can prepare and obviously you can be successful in those things. It's never going to be the same, right? And so I can definitely understand how that is something that why you appreciate it, I guess, right? And so and I have a few more questions about your whole JUCO stuff, but also but because of you as a coach and more of on the recruiting stuff, but we'll get to that in a little bit. I want to talk when did like you've been playing softball for a while, right? Or you played softball for a while, I should say. And then you went to CCU, excuse me. I think that's the abbreviation. And so you went there, and then you went to either coaching or into the real world. So realistically speaking, when did you decide that coaching is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, no, I get this question a lot from recruits too, and it's one of my favorite questions to get. So after, I had a great experience at my JUCO route, and then I went to the 4-year, and it was a totally different experience, a different environment. Everything was different. It kind of almost at the point, it was my junior year at being now, so I was ready to actually be done with softball. And this was before the transfer portal was even a thing. Like just the mental drain we had went through. This was, I know I'm not that old. I'm still pretty young, but at this time it was still different than today's world. Like mental health wasn't important at that time. And so I was really going through a lot, and I kind of wanted to put softball. I was like, I'm done with it. Like, this is my mental is not there, but I was like, well, I can't transfer. Nobody's going to want a senior at this time because, like I said, no transfer portal. So whenever I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to stick it out my senior year and finish, because if I start something, I've got to finish it. And for me, I got into coaching, and it was really then my junior year going into senior year because of the coach I had at the time. And, I wanted to be the change. That was my thing. I wanted to be a different type of coach for our young ladies and, give them the experience that they deserve, to take care of their mental health, to help them through life, through different situations, more than just being a softball player. And that's what I felt like in college, especially my 4-year, that I was just that softball player. I wasn't the Kayla Bryant. Like, I wasn't the person. I was just the softball player. So I wanted to be the change, and that's what really drew me to that, was to be the change.
You wanted to be the change, and you wanted to be that person. So I know you said like you're obviously making a joke, right? Like I don't. When did you graduate high school?
I graduated in 2014.
Okay, so yeah, we're like the same age. Okay, so yeah, I mean, so being at this stage, right? Like, it's kind of cool being in our position. I don't know. I like being older in coaching world, right? There's a lot of benefits to it. It sounds like, I mean, it's always like circles, right? Like obviously whenever one older coach retires, a younger coach steps in, right? So kind of in that position where we can kind of step in and still relate to the kids in some ways, right? Like if they quote a movie or quote a TV show or whatever, right? Like we could still say it, or we could still relate to it or whatever. So it is kind of cool that's something that you decided to go into and things like that. So how long have you been coaching? Was it like, it was like right after, right? Oh yeah, you went GA. Yeah. So it was right after. So you went GA into it. So what are some challenges that did you face as a coach? Like, maybe as a GA when you first stepped in there, and then now that you're the head coach, like in this time frame that you've been in coaching, what are some challenges that you faced, right, from then to now, to either help you out now, or that you've kind of learned to overcome and now you can handle them a little bit easier or better, I should say?
Yeah, for sure. I think as a GA, I think that's the hardest position. I will be honest with you, because I was, you're fresh out of school, so you're still the same age as those student athletes, and your connection is right there with them, and you're really transitioning. I think that's the hardest time as a coach, is because you're like, okay, I can see the player's point of view because I was literally just there like a couple months ago, but then also now I'm seeing this coach's point of view. So it's like you're kind of in that hard spot, right? And I think for me, it was learning and developing, like, okay, like I have to transition, I have to go now into this coaching role. Like I can't be, the so-called friend, right? Like I have to be that figure. Like, yes, I might be near and close to your age, but I'm also now in this coaching role. So now we've got to, separate that. I think as a GA, that was definitely the hardest part for me, at least. And then as an assistant coach, it was just growing and learning what's going to be best for me. What am I wanting to do when I become a head coach? Of course, you always backed up your head coach and always did what they say. And then, behind closed doors, we can talk about stuff, but, really learning if I do have a program at whatever time, like what do I want that to be? What do I want it to look like? And then when I was offered it, it's like, okay, like this is what I want. And of course, you're going to learn a lot. Like you're going to go through the ups and downs. I think my first year, I learned a lot as a head coach. It was one of those, like you learn a lot of life lessons and a lot of things. You're like, okay, this is what you have to do, or this is how you have to approach it. They don't just give you a book, right? Or a manual saying this is how you head coach, this is how you do it, because it's not just one shoe fits everybody. Like you have to have your own style and your own play. And I would say over the last, I'm going into year 5 now being a head coach, that year 1 me is totally different than year 5 me. And I think if you ask any of the student athletes, they would tell you the same thing. It's really been, especially these last 2 years, is building those relationships, being relationship driven, really learning the athletes, getting to know them. We're big in our program about knowing more about them. I want to know about your life. I want to know about, family. How's the family doing, right? Because we believe here that if you trust us off the field, on the field, I know you're going to go that extra mile for me. So it's really building those relationships, doing a lot of stuff just to get to know them, and then really just seeing those connections and seeing how it grows and just seeing them. I think that's the biggest thing. It's just watching them grow from when they get here as a freshman and then they'll graduate as a senior. I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, the development stuff, and like you said, I mean, it sounds like you take that part pretty serious. I mean, I can appreciate that, wanting to get to know them and knowing that there's obviously that's a big part of life. In their space, right? Like softball is a big part of their life, but obviously there's more to it than just the sport. So I can appreciate that that's how your approach is to it. And yeah, I mean, you don't really know what the head coach is going to be like till you're strapped up and that's your title, right? So there's definitely some things that you've probably had to learn and you had to overcome and just had to accommodate, like you said, from year 1 to year 5. It's a whole different world. So was head coaching something that you knew you wanted, or was it just something that kind of fell in your lap?
I think it was a little bit both, honestly. I knew I wanted to be a head coach. I just didn't know how fast it would come, right? And I was, at the time when I was the volunteer assistant at the University of Memphis, right? That was the first time that I had hit the D1 world, which is totally different than you can imagine from the JUCO world and, the NAIA world, right? Like I remember it was funny, like going into when I had first accepted the job and they were like, all right, here's some gear, go pick out, right? And they've got this big storage of just Nike gear, and me being me from small schools, I just grabbed like 2 or 3 t-shirts, a pair of shorts, and they had shoes, and I was like, oh, this is cool, right? So I grabbed a pair of shoes, and I remember them looking at me like, no, go get more. And I'm like, I'm fine, this is enough, right? But to them, they were like, no, like you need more. So being in that D1 world, I really liked it. I really enjoyed it, just kind of getting the taste of it. But for me, once the head coaching job called, I was like, all right, this is where I've got to go. It just felt right. Just kind of, that gut feeling you get. And it was an easy transition because I just got done coaching those girls as GAs. So they all knew me. They all knew the style. So going into that, I felt that was the biggest thing, is it was the right fit because I already knew the team, I already knew the girls, how to coach them, how to get the most out of them. So everything just kind of fell into place for that first head coaching job.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I'm sure it was a little bit of a culture shock going to that level, but I mean that's really cool though that you got to experience that a little bit and stuff like that. I mean, is D1, now that you touched it and now that you're there, right? Like, and I've had this conversation. I think on my last episode. Like, I don't know if I'd have the same passion if I was coaching at a D1 just because how much different, and the sports aren't different, but the behind the scenes is probably, like, off the field is so much more different. I feel like you have probably more pressure, you have more eyes, you have more expectations, and that's fine, right? Like obviously that's what we're here for. Pressure is a privilege, right? Obviously that's something there. But do you think that the D1 level coaching there, do you think that helped you, whether it's the talent that you saw, whether it was just how they operated, whatever the case is, but do you feel like being at that D1 level as a coach helped you coming here, or do you feel like it was just kind of another learning time frame that you got to have before stepping into the role that you're in?
I think it was a big learning. I mean, it was a lot too. Like the head coach I had worked under and the assistant, like they had been in the D1 game for a while, right? And so just learning a lot of different coaching styles and seeing how they put practice plans together and seeing that different side, I think that only helped me. Just because, as you know, like coaching at time, you just take bits and pieces from certain coaches, right? Like we just went to the coaches convention and you might go into one segment and you listen to it and you're like, this was absolutely horrible. I got nothing from it. But then you go to another one and you've got like a whole page full of stuff. So it was really just taking bits and pieces like, okay, I could see me using this in the future, keep a note of that. I think that's the biggest thing is getting to experience that was amazing just because I was able to learn a lot more on that side as a young coach at the time and really developing, okay, like I could use this when I go into wherever I end up, or I don't think I would do this with my team because I don't like how the girls reacted to it. So just learning those different styles was huge for me.
So what do you think, I should say, thinking back and maybe into your current style, it's kind of a two-parter. Actually, we'll start with just the first one because I think the second one will be able to be a one-off question. You've got a lot of coaches that you probably got to play under growing up as an athlete. I guess collegiately alone, you had a few, and then obviously high school and youth, and as a coach as well, right? Being an assistant or GA, you got to coach under, like you just mentioned. So, thinking to those influential coaches, who, I guess the proper question here is, who was an influential coach to you, and what did they teach you, or what did you learn from them? Whenever you think back to some of those coaches that you got to be under or play for.
Yeah, I think a big one I always think back to is actually my high school basketball coach. He was very tough on us, but it was a tough, loving way. Like at the time, I didn't see it. It's like, man, this dude is just hard on us 24/7. But then the outcome made sense. I mean, we were always in the state tournament. We were always in the state championships. We were always going for that gold ball, right? And so really learning and just seeing that now, like at the time when I was a young kid, like I was like, I don't like this guy at all. Like, why is he making me do this? But now looking at it, like as a head coach, I'm like, it makes total sense what he was doing. Like, I totally understand now, like why he was pushing us the way he was, why he was doing this, and I think that was huge. And then I think the biggest thing just throughout my whole time is just, learning like what coaching styles work, what coaching styles don't work. And then actually my graduate study work was to see how student athletes respond to coaches that are more firm and the yelling type compared to coaches that are not that type. And it was actually, I now use a whistle at practice, which is crazy to think because I saw when doing my research that the girls, they reacted weird to when you would just yell, even if it was just like, hey, look up, like any type of yelling, their body language, they would just shut down. So I was like, well, this is weird. So one day I grabbed a whistle and I tried it at practice and the body language were fine. Practice kept going. The flow kept going. It was weird. I was like, okay. And so ever since that research, I now use a whistle at practice and they know that if I hit it once, that means look up. 2, we're transitioning to the next drill. And of course, the 3 whistles their favorite because that means practice is over. But, that was a big thing for me too, is just learning each style and what is going to fit me and what's going to help me be a coach for the younger generation.
Yeah, the whistle at a baseball softball practice is kind of unique. I think that's really unique actually. I actually went away from the whistle, and I got here. I was a whistle guy for a long time, and I actually went away from it, partially because, well, I guess the answer for that is kind of hard. I don't really have a 100% answer for it. I think I went away from it because of the, just how our practices are. It's kind of, we don't have we don't have a 40 girls in that room. We have 20 or 22. So it's a little bit smaller group. So like I can say, hey, I usually my stoppage is turning the music off, right? Because whenever in the wrestling room we listen to music or whatever to drill or to practice, and so normally that's my whistle cutoff is doing that. So, but it's interesting that you do that though. It's cool that you looked into, like you did research and you looked into the science or whatever the case is to, and looking deeper into reactions, right, with body language and stuff like that, which I mean, as a coach, I feel like we do that anyways with like how these kids are responding to our words and to what we're doing physically, mentally, whatever. But to decide a whistle versus no whistle is actually really interesting, really cool. It shows that you have kind of a, the way that your brain works is really cool to think of that, I guess I could say, especially, in softball and baseball that's not really a sport that uses whistles, right? Like basketball, indoor sports, right? And football.
Exactly. I don't think you'll ever see it. It's funny you say that. Like, I remember I was using the whistle not too long ago, and a lot of the coaches were just looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, I'm like, it works, whatever works, man. And you talk about the music, and that makes me think of our practice. Like, our girls like to say the good vibes, right? We always have the good vibes. So we have music playing in our practice too, like when they're warming up, and when we have our teaching moments, that's what I call it. The music's off, right? But when the music's on, they're having their good vibes and they're grinding. And I was a coach early on. I never thought I would use music. I was like, that's never going to work, but hey, it works. Whatever works at times, man, you got to do it. So yeah, no, it's crazy. I've got a pink whistle and my whole staff has a whistle. We use it. And I tell them, like, it's one of those big things, like they know it and we know it. Like, if it works, as long as it keeps working, we're going to keep using that whistle.
It's interesting that you, for one, I appreciate all your staff has a whistle, top tier. The pink whistle, solid. And the music, right? Like, and that's kind of unique too. Softball and baseball, which I say this as if I've experienced a lot. I mean, there's like 1,800 or 2,000 programs between D1 to, really every level, right? There's like there's around 2,000 programs. So, like, to say that it's unique, I might be naive to it, but music, I feel like, is also kind of unique too. I don't know if music's really played a whole lot. Maybe like warm-up stuff or certain parts of practice, but if it's like something that's kind of throughout practice, I feel like that's kind of unique as well. But at the same time though, like our age, right? Like I was a 2013 graduate, even though should have been 2014. I went to school early, but we're probably the same age. But our age group was different than our coaches, and obviously our age group's different than who we're coaching. So the evolving of things is something that I think is important for us to understand as coaches, and something that you've probably been able to notice. So, obviously the stuff we grew up with is something different now. Even my coach now, the coach that was my coach, he's still coaching, and my high school coach say, he was way different on us than, I went back and I actually got to assist him and coach with him for a little bit, and like he's different now in certain areas than when we were there, right? So it's just cool to see evolving of people and for different student athletes in different times. So I think that's important. So what do you think something that you took from your time frame from either that coach, the basketball coach, or any other coach you've been around? What do you think is something that you've taken from those coaches and implemented into your coaching style now? So maybe one thing, so I guess two things. One thing from like practice planning, on the field stuff, batting, whatever it is, practice, travel, whatever, something that's softball specific on the field. And then what's something that you've taken and implemented for maybe behind the scenes stuff? So whether it's recruiting, whether it's personal stuff, social stuff, mental, whatever it is, what's something off the field that you've taken and implemented from coaching or just from people that you've experienced before?
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing for me was like more on the coaching side was when I was at the University of Memphis working under Coach Poole. I really liked how she did her practice planning. And before, as a graduate assistant, it was done a totally different way. And I wasn't a big fan of the practice planning at that time. So I was like, well, I need to see something else, right? Like I'd only seen one way my whole time because I was a graduate assistant. And before that, you're a player, so you don't even have to worry about practice planning. So getting to see her style and how she put it together, I really enjoyed. And it's actually, I still use the same format now today that I learned 5 years ago, just because it really fell into it. I like the flow of it. So being able to take that from, learning that at that time has been huge for me. And then I think on the other side of it, for me, getting into coaching was wanting to be the change, right? And as that athlete at my 4 year, mental health wasn't a focus. It was one of those things that was pushed off. And so now as a coach, we really sit down with our athletes. We care about it. We talk about it, what's going on? How are you doing? How are you feeling? We even have each week it's called fresh check meetings. And so what it is, it switches off between me and my assistants and they'll come in. We usually try to do it away from the office or the softball field. Usually like to go somewhere on campus. Sometimes our girls like they love coffee, of course, so they like to go to different like Starbucks or something. But you know, seeing how everything's going. Let's talk about stuff like are you doing all right? How's home? How's it going? Like now you're away from home for our freshmen or transfers. So how are we feeling? What's going on? I think that's been huge too this year is doing those fresh checks and really getting to learn them and on a deeper level and making sure they are okay mentally and making sure that just they're more like I tell them all the time, you're more than just a softball player. And I think that's huge. And we really live by that within this program. That's for sure.
I like that. Fresh checks. I might have to steal that or some version of it.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, we, obviously, whenever it comes to us or myself, what we'll do is when we do we have individual meetings kind of at the beginning of the year, end of the year, of course, kind of your typical stuff. But throughout the season, we'll have like individual film sessions and we'll have individual practice sessions, stuff like that. And we kind of have it to where we're also it's also not like a huge team. We had a thing this year to where it actually was just one coach on both sides. So it's just myself and then the men's coach, the coach of the men's side. So we don't have a depth. We don't have deep depth. I don't know. I can't talk right now. We don't have depth in the coaching space right now, right? So we help each other out when we can, but it's really just one-on-one. So we've kind of had to adjust what some of the things we wanted to do. So that sounds like something that I try to implement whenever we are doing our individuals and stuff as a team right now. But next year we have a plan for a few different coaches coming in. So that's something I think that would be beneficial, and it sounds like it is beneficial for these girls and for just athletes in general, for them to feel like coach doesn't just value me if I'm good or not on the field or in the mat or whatever's going on. So I can appreciate that for sure. So when you think about an athlete's development, from, for example, right, you've talked about JUCO transfers, you've talked about the development in JUCO, right, or maybe development as an idea of a freshman walking into a 4-year school. That's kind of the area we're going to talk about because you're at a 4-year school. So we're going to talk about but you can answer it however you like. But the idea of a kid coming in who wants to obviously be a starter, no one wants to not play, but the development side of it. So how do you get a kid to come in and maybe it's a freshman or maybe he is that junior or transfer, whatever the case is, wherever they are in their life, and wherever they sit on your roster. How do you get a kid to go from that backup or that person who might get, either 2 innings a month or something very, very light, or maybe doesn't get any PT at all, to where now they are, a pinch hitter or a pinch runner, and now they're getting PT, or now they're coming in as a reliever, or now they are actually starting, right? So I guess the idea of someone who's not a starter to where now they can be a starter, what's the development look like for you, and how do you get kids to develop to where they can, play essentially?
Right. No, that's a good question. I think for me, it's like I even tell this to our athletes too. Like you come in, you already have the base, right? Like you already have the fundamentals. You wouldn't be in college right now if you didn't have what we saw in you, right? So it's really, we break down small things here and there. Like we're not going to come in and, for example, like swings, for example, you're hitting. I'm not going to tear it down completely and make you into the robot I want you to be. That's not going to work. Like it's not a thing. So we develop you. So we're going to show you, okay, like this is what we're looking for. Maybe this day we're working on you're not getting your hip drive or you're not getting this certain thing through. So we're going to work on that. The next day it might be something else. So for us, it's really breaking those things down. Like you already have your base. So let's just build off of the base you have. Right. And I think when you're recruiting athletes, you're going to recruit people that fit into your program. Where do you need them to fit in? And you can see that they have that. Like I think of the recruits that we already have, or I should say commits or signees. I can already see for, next year, like, all right, this is where she's going to be. Like, this is what she'll do. This is what she can do. So it's really just being able, to work with them. But it's like I tell them, like, you also have to put that time in when we're not looking. And I think that's the biggest part and the biggest thing that a lot of athletes miss today. Like, they just think, oh, I can go to practice. That's enough. I don't have to do anything else. No, we know when you've been working, right? Like, I can see, especially right now, I hate winter break in a way because we just made all this progress in the fall. Now I've got winter break, and then now sometimes you almost have to start over, but not always. So, it's like, okay, like, are you going to put in that time and effort during the winter break when it comes, like we just did? So getting them to buy into that, to learn like, oh yeah, like she is serious about that. And I think when you look at our starting lineup or whoever it is that day, it's the ones who have put in the extra time, the hard workers, the ones who have bought into the program, the ones that have gone that extra mile and that are good people. Like, those are the type that we want in our program, but also those are the ones playing for us. It's the ones that actually go out there, do the extra work, not the people. They might have all the talent in the world, but if they're halfway doing anything or half-assing, honestly, is what I tell them all the time. Like, you're not going to play for us. Like, you got to go out there, put the extra work in, do the extra time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and by the way, I can appreciate the hate for fall break. It's kind of hard, or not fall break, winter break. It's kind of hard. Like, it's literally right in the middle of our season, right? So all winter sports kind of has to deal with this in our aspect. So I just wanted to touch there. I can understand why you have that little bit of a, there's a love and hate for it for sure. It's a double-edged sword. You got to hope and pray. You got to trust your athletes to do it, but at the same time, if they're doing all the right things, you'll see it. But at the same time, there's also possibly some athletes who won't, and that it comes back, and like you said, you'll see it. But, so there's obviously pros there, but obviously I like holidays. I like Christmas. I like holidays. So there's that double edge, right, for sure, on the personal side of it. But you mentioned about, the kids who want to put in that work or whatever. But let's say a kid who is bought in, but they are struggling to develop. What do you do? I mean, in the world of transfer portals, right? Like, and just the idea of kids wanting to enter and exit whenever they want, really, in today's world, which is hard for, I feel like, which we might get into a little bit, but to develop a culture or develop a long sustaining thing can be hard, I feel like, in some regards to a 4-year school nowadays. But regardless, how do you get that kid to, like, where do you start with the kid like that who loves the school, loves everything about the process, but they're just struggling to develop to get to that point, right? Are they, like, what do you do as a coach in that regard? I'm assuming you're not just going to kick them to the curb. I mean, you might, but I feel like some coaches might. They'll be like, yeah, Saint ain't, go hit the portal. But I feel like there's also some who obviously don't do that, right? So anyways, where do you start with a kid like that?
Yeah, for sure. So for me and with our program, so we actually have a word. It's called mudita. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I'm actually wearing our team shirt right now. But it's finding the joy in other people's success and not having envy on them. And I think that's huge. I remember bringing that word into this team last year, and they're like, who is this person, like, telling us this? That's new and has a little accent to her. Like, up here in Wisconsin, they've got their own accent, but they were really thrown off by it. And so it was really cool just to see the last year of them starting to develop that. Like, oh, like, this is the joy she's talking about. Like, I'm getting excited for my teammate. Like, I may not be the one actually making the plays, but I'm super excited for that other person. And so it was really cool. Like, by the end of spring, they were really bought in. Now they are fully bought in. Like, we have girls that get excited for, the good grades. They're getting excited for when somebody gets a big A on a test or stuff, and seeing those accomplishments. And I think that's the biggest thing, is us building that culture where you want to stay, right? Like, you may not always be the starting shortstop for us, or you might not be getting that clutch hit, but you have a job, you have a certain duty to do for our team. And I think that's huge. Like, we've got the girls that, I tell them, like, you put in the work and time, you're going to get your opportunity. And they really saw that last year. Like, we had one girl, she wasn't a starter for us, but at the end, she was starting for us, right? Because she put in that time. When her role came up, she was ready to go. So it's getting them to buy into it, but they have really bought into Mudita. It's one of the words. I actually took it from Patrick Murphy, which is the Alabama head coach. I hate Alabama because I'm a Tennessee fan, but he's a good coach. But really buying into that, I think, has been huge. Just seeing that joy. And we even did a community service project this Christmas for the local community, where it was, all right, we're going to go to nonprofits, collect certain things, and we're not going to do presents for one another this year. Usually you get like presents and it's stuff you don't want, like, white elephants or whatever. So what we did was we used that $10 to $20 we would have used on each other for the community. And so it was really cool for them just to go and give these items to these nonprofits and see all these people get so excited, right? And like be thankful. And that's where we talk about, like, that's the mudita, that's the joy. We want you to see that, it's on the field, off the field, everything we do. So that's been the biggest thing I think for our program, is living by that mudita and that joy for others.
So the Mudita, I really like that mentality as a program. I think it's actually really cool that you guys did that with your community. I never even thought about that, but I was like, dang, that would be really cool, and it looks really good too. Not only to the higher ups, but it looks really good to the community, and it also makes the girls feel good. So before diving into the reasons behind it, I really like that you guys do that. That's really cool. But yeah, like you said, by the way, roll Tide. If it ain't, I don't give a damn about nothing about the Tide. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm not. I know you hate that, and that's fine. I actually hate Alabama too. So we're on the same page. I don't dislike Tennessee. I just hate Alabama. My team is, well, let's just say we were really good in softball, but it's all right. We'll move on here. But yeah, good old Texas here, baby. Sorry, didn't mean to do that to you. I will agree with you though. I'm not a big Bama guy, but so now let's move on to the. I've been wanting to ask this from when you talked about the whole JUCO thing earlier on. You talked about recruiting and stuff like that. So I want to talk a little bit about recruiting in general. Not so much about the JUCO side of it, but you can also, but maybe I guess depending on how you take this question. But where do you find your athletes? And then what are you looking for when you're recruiting? Like, is there anything that stands out to you? I know like softball and baseball and some of these team sports are really, there's a lot more observation to, like what their stature is and a lot of technique behind their, how's their batting stance, how are they throwing, where their arm slot. Maybe there might be some things like that. But what stands out to you and what are you looking for when it comes to that athlete, and then where are you finding them?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, a big one too is, so before here I was in South Dakota, right? And it was a really small town. So for us, you couldn't really recruit local or even close to you, right? So you really had to go out. And there I was recruiting a lot. You had the states that bordered, of course, where you recruited, but also we were going more into, like, you got Washington, Cali, the Hawaii kids. So we were really big in those areas, really getting those kids from farther away too, which, they're playing ball year round out there compared to in the Midwest, where you're not always playing ball year round. Because if you're like right now, we've got freaking snow all over the ground, so you can't go play, right? So really there, but then now I'm in Wisconsin, right? So now I've really got to shift gears again, because this is a totally different area. We're about 2 hours from Chicago, which is a big area too for softball. So for us this year, we really focused on the Wisconsin and the Illinois kids, right? And so really hitting those areas hard, which was great for us. But now I'm expanding us. This program has never before really gone outside of, like, I would say, the states that bordered Wisconsin, honestly. Even, they stayed right around it in the Midwest. No, I want to get back out, to get back the Cali kids, to get the Arizona. Like, we've had some of those kids on campus like this year, and it's going to continue to grow each year because ball out there is different. And I also like for our team to see different areas, different personalities. Everybody grows up a different way. Like, the way of living in Wisconsin is totally different than the way of living in Arizona, where you got, desert all around you and stuff. So just seeing, different stuff, a lot more life lessons, right? Just more than just softball. Like, those are going to be people you develop relationship with. And so right now, this recruiting class was mainly the Wisconsin, Illinois, just because of the first year for me recruiting here. We did get some Arizona kids out here, and so it's just going to keep growing. We're going to keep pushing that way, where we still will get local, obviously, like around here, but I also want some girls from other areas too.
Yeah, for sure. So what about the JUCO scene? By the way, just touch base. I like that your mindset is to expand out. I 100% agree with that. Different personalities, different playing styles, I think benefit teams. So I will vouch for that, and I would agree with that. So, but whenever you talk about the JUCO space, because I know you said it earlier, you recruited, you were a JUCO kid. What about the JUCO, or excuse me, where are you finding kids in JUCO, right? Because like that's a whole nother recruiting ball game. Not only are you looking at high school kids, but now you're adding a whole nother X amount of schools to your JUCO space to recruit, right? So, kind of the same idea there is how are you finding JUCO kids, and what about a JUCO kid stands out to you maybe over the same position at a high school level?
Right. Yeah, I think for me, I've gotten JUCO kids from Iowa, Oklahoma, Cali, Washington, a lot of those areas. Oregon, you'll find a lot of JUCO. I think really big out there, like the Washington, Oregon, Cali ranks. Like there's just not enough like 4-year colleges, as you know, out there. Like they're there, but they're usually the top or the top tier ones. So a lot of athletes out there. For me, it's really looking at those JUCO kids, and I'm not big on numbers, but also stats don't lie, right? Like if you're hitting 400 at the JUCO level and 100 at bats, you're doing something pretty dang good. That's for sure. So looking at that when it comes to the pitching side, we're looking at your ERA, right? Like if you're going out there in 120 innings and you've got a 2 or 1 ERA, that's pretty dang good. Like you're doing something right. So really looking at that, I think that's kind of what gives the edge over, those high school kids where they've already got that college experience. They want to come in, want a ball right away. And that's what it is for me. I always tell recruits, age is just a number. I don't care if you're a freshman, senior, anything in between. If you can ball, you're going to go ball for us. So I think that's huge. It doesn't matter, when it comes to that freshman or that junior, like if you can do it, you're going to go play for us right away. I'm not going to wait around for you to develop or, be the perfect mold that might want you to be. But if you're going to ball, you're going to go ball for sure.
Yeah, and I know that this might be kind of crazy, so this might be a hot question, but I know some coaches, personal conversations I've had, and also just the recruiting classes, right? They don't bring in JUCO kids like that. Are you politically correct term here, and maybe not? I don't know. Do you have a preference on it? Like, are you attacking JUCOs first, or are you attacking high school kids first? Like, where are you at, and which one? Now, I wouldn't say there's a preference because I know you just want the best athletes to come to you and play for you. I'm sure. So I'm sure it's not really that type of question in preference wise. But where are you attacking first, and where do you spend a lot of your time when it comes to the at least eye test, right? Numbers and stuff come, but where are you spending most of your time when it comes to your initial recruiting?
Yeah, for sure. I think for us this year, I really gave over to my assistant coach. She had more of the incoming like freshman type because she went to 4-year right away. So she kind of has a connection when it comes to, like, okay, high school to 4-year school, where me, on the other hand, I have that JUCO route. So I felt like, talking to JUCO kids, I can make a little bit better connection with them, right? Like I can understand with them. I can talk about JUCO. We can joke about it, right? Where they understand, where as my assistant, she may not know as much about that JUCO life or that JUCO route. So she may not understand, the questions that might get asked. So being able to split that up, of course, like I still have my hands in some of the 26 and 27s, but being able for when it comes to the 4-year side was just being able to split that off. I think that's been a huge help, and just us being able to work with each other and understand, like, okay, you're better at this because you did go 4 years. Like you went to freshman to 4 years straight away, where I went the opposite route. So I think that helps us a lot.
And I guess my final question for you on recruiting side of things is, I asked this question earlier, but in a different regard. But whenever you went from GA to obviously head coach, we've already mentioned that, but in that time frame, you may have had your hand in recruiting at different places, whether it's a big role or small role. But what are some challenges that you faced in the recruiting space that you've had to overcome as well? And even if you want to answer just as the head coach, that's fine. But what are some challenges you faced in recruiting that you've had to overcome? And hopefully, like a same thing, now that hopefully you can navigate it a little bit easier for the future.
Yeah, I think honestly, this is going to be anywhere, especially any small university, is you're going to always hear the tuition, right? Tuition fees. That's a big one. And especially I went from The NAIA, where I could offer athletic scholarship, where now at the D3 you can't offer athletic scholarship, right? But it's getting the student athletes to understand, like, yeah, you may not be getting that athletic scholarship per se, but you're paying less here than you would at that four-year school that does offer athletic scholarship. Like, I remember when I was at that level coaching, some girls were getting $500 for athletic scholarship, right? But then they're still paying like 30, 40,000 out of pocket, right? Where now here I can show you, like, yeah, you may not be getting the athletic scholarship, but look, your package is way better than this package over here. So I think that's the biggest struggle. And the hardest thing is, breaking it down for people. It's like, yes, technically you're not on an athletic scholarship, but it's just the same as if you were on an athletic scholarship. Like, the scholarships where we are, especially at Lakeland, are really good, and really they've got it set up well where students, if they have the right GPA or a good GPA, they're going to get athletic scholarships and cover a lot of the tuition and fee cost.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that, every, the D3 and some and other schools, right? Some have, and even you could be D1, but Oregon and Alabama and Tennessee, the SEC, whatever, like those financials and opportunity, like scholarship wise, and some of the money that they receive, and maybe there is a cap you're allowed to give, but the NLI, blah blah blah, like there's a lot to it. But even like if you're looking at Tennessee versus Tennessee State, like those are two different budgets, like way different budgets, right? And so it's just one of those things where I think coaches they have to face those challenges all the time. But I also feel like the whole idea of the whole, D3, and like you're kind of having to face that as a challenge. I also feel like, it could be wrong here, but like, let me just ask this. Are the kids, is that what a lot of their worrisome is like the financials part of D3, or is it it's D3, like it's a D3, like, you hear D1, D2, D3, NAI, right? Like the idea of like D1 or bust, like do you face that challenge as well, or is it more on the financial side?
I think it's more on the financial side. I would say before here, it was always like I really felt and I really heard that D3 stigma, right? Like, oh, it's D3, this and that. But then coming to Wisconsin, like the whole state pretty much is D3 schools. Like, there's only 3 JUCO schools. You have your few UW, like, Madison, Green Bay, that are those D1 schools, but most of the schools in Wisconsin are D3, and even into Illinois, there's a lot of D3. So that stigma up here is not the same. Like, you look at some of these D3s, especially around here in the UW system, I mean, they've got better facilities than D1s have right now. So really in Wisconsin, I haven't noticed as much. In the Midwest, I will say, in this area, but in South Dakota, or even when I was in Tennessee, like, I remember that stigma was around, like, oh, you're going D3, like that's nothing, like that's just easy play, when in reality that's not. It's a grind here too. It's just as competitive as all those other schools too.
Yeah, I mean, like UW, like Lacrosse and Oshkosh and all those up there. Yeah, like those are some legit. And I know them from wrestling, but I've seen some pictures of their stuff, and it's amazing. I know they got like Parkside, which I think's a D2, but they're legit for sure. And so I can understand that. I just asked I was asked that question because I feel like a lot of it is just like information based, right? Like I feel like if a high school coach or somebody can actually talk to the kid and to the families and stuff like that, I think it opens up their minds to things if you know what you're talking about, not BSing them. Like I've had some kids like in my recruiting class this year, but also in the future, or excuse me, I guess this class we had this year for 25, 26, but also I think next year, I think a lot of them, they're like, I wasn't really thinking about a 2-year school. And then you talk to them and tell them, not only what the sanction is, but what we have to offer as a school. And then they see our facilities and they see what we have. And I think a lot of kids appreciate that. And so I think that just information based also goes a long way. But I mean, like you said, though, if you have that amount of schools up in that area, that's kind of the way of life in regards to college versus other places where D3 is not really a thing. But yeah, I like that you said that though about like the level of play, because I've heard that you always hear that all the time, like, oh well, D3, which section's actually better? Obviously D1 Power 5 is, or I guess Power 4 is obviously the epitome of sports, but from there what's truly the best. Because there's some JUCO schools out there that I know are dogs and I can win a lot of games and a lot of matches. You have NAI that has some really good talent and it can compete. D3 to really good, D2 really good. So it's like it's just, I think it's more like rankings. It's like for the fans to discuss. I don't think it's really our place to discuss which one's better or not. But I do think it's that there's talent everywhere you go, and you're going to find good games or good people and good competition in every sanction. Because I mean, I've seen some D1 blowouts, and that's not really fun. So I'm sure it's, you can find talent everywhere. So, but yeah, I appreciate you talking a little bit about recruiting and talking a little bit about that space. I think that it's just interesting to me how people's mindsets are as coaches, and also like where their direction is for their program in terms of that, and kind of just how they got to where they are. So I appreciate everything so far. I have a few more questions kind of on the deeper stuff, kind of more about the, kind of more towards why this podcast is what it is. And we'll just jump right into those questions. And one I always like to start with is, how do you build a successful culture on the level of buy-in and mindset?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is finding what fits that group, right? Like you're going to have, like us, like we go off of Mudita, right? And the girls know coming in like that we're really big on Mudita. But I think it's also being able to change with the team too. Like each team's not going to be the same, right? Like we're going to have our foundation, but it's us as coaches also being able to change and be with the times and being able to accept, like, okay, this is the challenges that are going to come with this, or this is how we've got to address this in a different way than we might have done last year with that team. So learning the team you have is huge. So I think learning it, but also keeping your core, right? Like for us, it is that Mudita. We're going to keep that core. Our girls know that, but we also, as coaches, are going to be able to adapt if they're, if we do need to do something different or change. I think that's massive for us.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's right. You're right, and like you've had some success at some other places you've got to be at coaching wise, whether it's your previous stop or as a GA or maybe just as an assistant at some places. So you've kind of found some success previously, and obviously where you are. So how do you build that success, and how do you continue doing that every year? Like how do you go year to year? With obviously we talked about individual development, really, right? So it's kind of that on a team scale. How do you develop from this year? We went 30-30, let's just say. I know you don't have 60 games in a year, but let's say 30-30. I did not mean to reference ESPN. Don't copyright me on there. But let's just say you went 30-30, right? And then next year you went 35-25, and then you just continue to grow, right? And then maybe you have a down year, but you're back up. Whatever the case is, how do you develop a successful team year in, year out, and how do you sustain it over time?
Yeah, I think for us, at least, and where we are, it's those relationships we build. For us, it's really been, them trusting us off the field and developing that. We do a lot of team bonding, a lot of stuff too, away from the softball field and even campus in general, where they see me outside of here. Like, yes, I'm Coach K here at Lakeland, but at home, like I've got a family too, right? Like I've got a dog, like, my assistant is always playing with my dog. Like she's always over there, right? Like, so I want them to see that side of us, but also, like that we do have that family side. So I think that's been the biggest thing for me is developing those relationships. Like they know that I know softball, right? Like they know that I know the game. They know that I already what I've done. They know that, right? But they don't care. They're wanting to know right now. They want to be important. They want to feel important. So what can we do right now in that moment? So for us, it's building those relationships. If you talk to any of our players, we do a lot. When it comes to the team bonding, like we bring each class over for a team meal so that, that they get to try. I always talk about my Southern cooking so that they can get some real spices in their life, not just the Midwest, no spice. Just getting to see that, right? Getting to see us outside of here. I think that's huge. Like we are people too. And so seeing them develop and, connect with us on that, it's been the difference for us. It's really been a big thing.
For sure, yeah. Everybody's a person. So, letting them feel that and see that. Absolutely. I can respect that. So when you just spoke about when you just spoke about the, it's important for kids to see when they're coming in, they see all those things, right? So just a quick touch here on this, which I think might be beneficial for those 4-year coaches is like, how do you retain your kids in today's world? Like, how do you get them to stay? I know part of it's the culture. I'm sure winning helps, but there's still going to be, I'm sure, some kids who, and it may not affect you as much. It may affect you just as much. I don't know, but knowing the portal's open to all NCAA, how do you retain kids to want to be a part of your culture for 4 years?
Yeah, I think that's massive. I think it's, we tell them we want you when you pick Lakeland to be here all 4 years. And some people might graduate early, right, and be 3, but we want you here all 4 years. I don't want you getting into the transfer portal. It's a hot mess, as you know. I mean, unless you're a big time D1, you're probably going to make it out if you're a big time name. But I mean, we could go on there right now and we'll see all these athletes that are in there that are just going to be another number, right? And you look at the statistics, many of the girls that go in there, they don't make it back out, right? And so it's really telling them from day one, like, I want you to be here, right? Like, there's going to be the good, there's going to be the bad days, but we're going to work together so that you are here, that you are bought into the Mudita, that you're bought into what we're wanting to do. Because if you do, it's going to only set you up for life. And I think, too, where we are at Lakeland, the community is a big thing on campus. Like, everybody knows everyone, right? We are that smaller school, but they're getting a lot of opportunities, right? And I think that's the biggest thing too, is the opportunities that Lakeland gives these students, right? Like, we have a thing that's co-op where you can earn credit by not being in the classroom. So we've got people that go work for the Packers, do internships for them, right? For the Brewers, like, there's all these different things. So I think that's also what helps make the whole experience even better for them. And for us, we have sorority and fraternities on campus. I've got girls on my team that are in the sorority life. Like, I tell them, I don't understand it, but I will support you in whatever you do, right? Like, if that's what you enjoy, I support you. So it's just being able to be flexible too. Like, they've got other interests at times too, but we're still going to be successful on the softball field. But giving them those opportunities to be a true college kid too at times also.
For sure, yeah. You got to have that good balance of work and life, right? So, absolutely, I can appreciate that. So, my final question for you on the deep side, I have some fun questions at the end I'm going to let you answer. But my final question for you on the depth is, why do you do this? What's your coach's why?
Yeah, it's for these student athletes. I wake up every day. I enjoy my job. I enjoy everything. There was a time where I almost got out of coaching because I was mentally burned out, right? Like, I think we all as coaches hit it, but really finding that place for you and where you feel at home, where you fit in, where you love where you are. And I think that's been the biggest thing for me is I've loved every minute about it, and just getting to see those student athletes and the smiles on their face when they finally get something that they've been working hard at. If it's in the classroom or even out on the softball field, seeing that spark and that's, that joy in them when they finally get it, like, that's why we do it. And it's why just getting to see them be successful in life. Like, my favorite thing is last winter, I was at one of my former players' wedding in Mexico, right? Like, getting to see her get married, seeing former players have babies now and have families. Like, that's what I look forward to. Like, the wins, they're great. They're going to be there. They're always, I know that's going to happen, but it's seeing these ladies past here, like, just getting to see them in life. That's what brings the joy out for me when it comes to coaching.
For sure, yeah.
Love that. I love that. So, if you guys are still watching this, if you guys are on YouTube, make sure you guys HTV hit that bell, like, subscribe, all that 9 yards. If you're an audio listener, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever, make sure you guys hit those stars, leave a review, say what you got to say, but say it with your chest because Coach and I want to hear it. Coach, I will say I really appreciate that right there, that depth, especially on the idea of you're doing this for the kids, and who are they going to be after here is huge, and the experiences you get with the relationship. So I respect that. That's also part of the reason why I do it too, is the relationships you get, and I want to help them be better people. So I can appreciate that a lot. But my final question for you, more on the fun side, is might be a hot topic. You've been around a few states. What state produces the best high school softball?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would have to say, it's hard to say one, but the top 3 definitely would be Cali, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. Those would be my 3.
Wow.
Throwing Oklahoma in there. Okay. And Tennessee. Tennessee was a biased pick. I can respect that. That was definitely biased. No, I'm just kidding. Tennessee, okay, that's fair. Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Cali. Okay, you might ruffle some feathers there. You may not. I don't know. Usually you hear like Florida and Texas in there, so I can really respect that you threw Oklahoma above Texas. Shout out to that for sure. So I respect it. Okay. But Coach, yeah, I really appreciate you jumping on here. Episode was really, really good. I thought you gave a lot of gems, so I really appreciate you taking the time to jump on here today. It was really fun. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I loved it. It was really cool.
Absolutely, yeah. Love to get you back on again, kind of see what it looks like maybe after season or sometime in the future. Love to chit chat and see if anything changes and or talk a little bit about the X's and O's. So look forward to doing that. So I'd love to have you back on.
Yeah, let's do it. That's got summertime. I'm a little bit down, so let's do it.
For sure, absolutely, yeah. We'll touch base over summer. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching to this episode. But with that being said, guys, we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.